All right, let's bring in Jim Barker from the CFL on TSN. Jim, I didn't see this one coming. Breaking news, Matthew Schultz will start the semifinal in the East Division over Bo Levi Mitchell. What is going on there for Hamilton?
Well, last week on your show, we talked about Scott Milanovich not being afraid to do what he thinks he has to do. And I can guarantee you this would be his call. And that first half last week for Bo Levi, they had 1 first down. And I said on the air, it just didn't give you those warm and fuzzies. And then when he didn't come out for the second half, again, I am a little surprised. But, Schultz gives them a different look. I mean, here's the bottom line, Rod. For the Hamilton Tiger Cats to win this game, they have to be able to formation them and run the football. James Butler has got to get involved. Their receiving core is not at the caliber to be able to carry this team forward. They're not the BC Lions. That's not their strength. That's not what they're doing well this year. Tim White, great receiver, but he's not a number one, a guy you can put out there one-on-one and know he's going to win the battle. So that's what they have to do. Schultz gives them an option off the run. He's a true run threat, which means now they have to defense almost another gap when they defense him. And like I say, I think they're going to do a lot of things formation-wise, utilizing tight ends and double tights and tight end wing sets to create problems for their secondary to force them into becoming run defenders. Schultz allows that. Bo Levi gives them a play-action threat that if those linebackers want to play downhill, they can go over the top to them. So it's kind of a neat 1-2 punch for this week because, again, I think it's one of those things. They will run the ball. They have to run the ball to have success, not turn it over. And Schultz gives them that added threat running the ball. Bo Levi can come in and give them that play-action threat. So if they start to play downhill, Bo Levi comes in and they throw the ball over the linebackers' heads into those holes in front of the secondary. So it's going to be what an interesting game. I can't wait for this game.
Well, interestingly enough, our viewers voted Calgary at BC as the game of the week. But again, we are kind of Western Canada-based / themed. Mm-hmm. But I'm not done on this. I think this is a surprise to everybody because I read the game notes, and even the CFL had Bo Levi's 5-3 in the playoffs as a starter. Cody Fajardo's 1-2. Nobody expected this. So what about the Montreal defense? What does this do to their prep?
Well, it affects their prep in that Schultz is such a runner. So now they have to be more concerned about him pulling the ball in the perimeters and maintaining backside contain, things that with Bo Levi you don't worry about as much. You worry more about, if they're going to run the ball, the play action and things along those lines. But he's not going to hurt you running the ball in their running game where Schultz can. So that's an added deal for their secondary. So for the Montreal defense, again, I think they're undersized. Last week, they went to a 3-3 front where they took Sewell, didn't dress. So they played Beverett at Sam linebacker, and then they played Avery Williams and Darnell Sankey, who's been a big addition, with 3 defensive linemen. So they played Uguak on one side and Lemon, and then Mustafa Johnson inside. So, they're a smaller but faster. With Schultz in there, I think you might see a little bit more of that 3-3, although I think it gives them a lot of blitz options and things, because it's just not something you see. So it'll be interesting to see if Sewell plays or if Avery Williams plays, which one, what they're worried about. And like I say, I think formation-wise, I think Hamilton showed in the game last week they're going to use a lot of tight end sets. They use Black at one tight end and Van Zyl at the other sometimes. They use wing backs. They have a fullback that they like to leave. So I think they're going to get a lot of gap problems for Montreal where they're going to have to get their secondary involved in the run fits or they're going to get hurt up the middle.
Okay, Calgary, stop crying about the Flames for a day or two, and let's look at the Stampeders who got their act together, Jim, just in time. And I see people saying Calgary's not going to be able to whip BC's ass twice in BC Place in 3 weeks. Maybe they can. Somehow they just flipped a switch and started playing. What's your read on the Western semifinal?
Oh, this is another great one. I mean, this one is actually, because of that 41-16 game, and, it's easy to just say, we'll just flush that down the toilet and go. But the bottom line was they started Vernon Adams. They wanted to win that game badly and put pressure on Winnipeg. And regardless of what they say, they got it handed to them badly. And you can't, when you get physically beat the way they got physically beat, you can't just hide that away. Now, can Calgary come out and do the same thing? I mean, Mayer only threw for 123 yards. They didn't make mistakes. They were opportunistic. Their defense created turnovers, and then they were able to convert those into points. So I think Calgary is a tough matchup for BC. I mean, you think you're going into BC Place, they are a big play team. They're playing indoors. They're a lot like the old Dick Vermeil, the greatest show on turf. They're the CFL version of that, with all these great receivers. And, again, they call him Big Play VA for a reason. He's going to make big plays. The question is, can Calgary's physicality up front, can they pressure Vernon Adams the way they did a lot of times with three-man pressures? That BC offensive line, I thought, struggled badly. Mizell will be back. They need to get him incorporated to keep those linebackers honest, to keep Cam Judge out of the pass game, because when he drops, he's a threat. He just has a great nose for the ball. But Calgary is the more physical team, and that's been a problem for BC all year. So this is not a great matchup for them. They are indoors. The elements won't be a factor in their passing game. The Calgary secondary, I worry about. If they give up some big plays, or if the Calgary offense turns the ball over and gives them a short field, and they have Sean White, who was the best kicker in the West this year, he's going to convert those into points, even if they don't score majors. So again, just a really intriguing matchup, because you have speed and both on both sides of the ball for BC, and then you have power on both sides of the ball for Calgary. And Kadeem Carey and Peyton Logan give them kind of a 1-2 punch that's different. It's not Kadeem Carey, Dedrick Mills, two guys that are similar. It's one will pound at you, and one's got some quickness.
You heard me chuckling there, because I think they call him Big Play VA. He came up with that, but he has lived up to it. And I love VA, so he gets it. We had him in Sask. We got along really good. Hey, by the way, I don't know if you saw me saying earlier, I was at the Dolphins game with Gil Scott last week, and he was like, I really enjoyed Jim on your show. I called him right after he got off the air the one day. I think you're realizing now the impact that this show has across the sports landscape. I'm glad that you're aware of that now.
I've been contacted by your listener, by a couple of them from all over, young guys, young female, that basically they want to know more about the profession. They want to know more about. So you spread wide, Rod. I can tell you that. I mean, like I say, I've been contacted more often than I ever thought. So that is true. And I knew you and Gil were going to that game together, and hope you guys had a blast. Sounds like you did.
Oh, we had a great time. We always have a great time when we get together. Audience question. David in Winnipeg says, comment for Jim with regards to the Most Outstanding Player Award. If Chad Kelly played and started all 18 games, he would deserve the award. But I feel with Brady Oliveira, what he's done is hard to ignore for Most Outstanding Player. Boy, they love Brady in Winnipeg. Does he have a shot to win it at Falls View Casino Thursday at Grey Cup week?
There's no doubt he's got a shot to win it. He's had just both what he's done carrying the ball and catching the ball. Again, when I look at this award, I look at what Chad Kelly did, and you have to throw out that it's his first year, because this is not about that. But to go into a team that last year with the same basic players was 11-7, same basic players on offense, and in games that he played over 13 snaps, they were 16-0. And how do you can't put or 15-0. He didn't play in that last game, so that was Duke. So he's 15-0. He didn't lose. He made Demontre Coxey was an Eastern All-Star. Deveris Daniels, he wasn't an All-Star with, when McLeod was there. Not any shot at McLeod. McLeod took us to a Grey Cup, won a Grey Cup. But Chad Kelly, he's now an Eastern All-Star. They're offensive linemen getting the accolades. That's a player making players around him better. And he did that as well as anybody I've had in the league since Flutie. When we had him in 97, he made our worst offensive lineman had his best year. And it was important to him that that's the way things went. I think it's important to Chad Kelly. So I just don't see how you can, again, it's not about numbers. You can take numbers and statistics and twist them any way you want. He's only had 11 or 12 sacks against him as a quarterback in this league. That's unheard of. He's only thrown, I think, 10 or 11 interceptions. I'm not the stat guy. Lapo's the stat guy. He always has. He knows all that. I don't have the stat. I just know that he doesn't throw a lot of game-losing interceptions. That's why the team wins. This team is 16-2, and I believe he's the most outstanding player, even though Brady Oliveira is very deserving, and Brady Oliveira very well may win this. You have to throw out that he's a Canadian, because that's not what this award is about.
We only got a couple minutes here, but the breaking news today, Kahari Jones will not be back in Ottawa as offensive coordinator. You mentioned Paul LaPolice. I'd love to handicap or have a Calcutta who's going to be the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. If you were doing the hiring, those guys' names would be in it. Who would you be hiring?
Well, I'm not going to tell you who I would be hiring, but I would probably be hiring. I'd hire Scott Milanovic because I've had him. I know his toughness. I know how he is in the locker room. To me, it's always risky hiring people that you haven't worked with and that type of thing. And there's a guy available that I think is very qualified. So I would say in the current climate, that's who I would hire. I think Kahari is going to be a definite candidate. Lapo, obviously, he's a great candidate. I mean, when you get jobs, usually you get jobs because somebody leaves because you've done well, but that doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, it's because you're going into a really bad situation. And he went into a bad situation in Ottawa. And I think he's to grade him simply on that, I don't know that that's good. So I think he's going to be a candidate. I think that Kahari's going to be a candidate. He did a nice job in Montreal. I don't know very well how those guys are as coaches in terms of dealing with the GM and those kinds of things. I know Henry Burris was brought up as a potential, and Henry was with me in Calgary. He was the first guy I signed as a general manager when I was in Calgary, and he's a great leader. But again, I'm old school, and I believe in that the more experiences you can have, and what kind of a staff can you bring, and that to me is going to be a big question for whoever they're going to hire. Is who can you bring into this, because you're not doing it yourself. And what assistant coaches can you tell us you're going to bring? And there's, when you're talking about getting coordinators and things along those lines, you have to have a deep breadth of people you've worked with, people that because again, you never know, just like players, you never know them till you coach them. You never know them till you're with them, till you watch them every day in and out. How are they in the office? How are they around the players? Are they? You don't know, and it's one of those things that once you're around them, and that's why coaches, when they're hired, normally surround themselves with people that they know. And again, it's one of those things that whoever they hire, Rod. Here's my philosophy on new coach. The greatest job in the world is to be hired as the head coach for a new place. But half of the people there, and in Saskatchewan, it's probably, I would say, 55% of the people there didn't want you. And 45% say, Okay, I mean, that's a legitimate hire. And that is going to change 2 or 3% every year based on how you do. Sparky Anderson, he told me this when he was with the Cincinnati Reds, and he said, the key to my whole thing is I've been at 54% my career. You don't get too good, so they don't get too high of expect. You don't get too bad, but you always stay competitive. And if you're going to get those years when you can win it all. So you just have to know, no matter who they hire, over half the people are probably not going to be real happy with it. And as a coach, you have to have the maturity. How are you going to handle that? Those are questions that, again, when I haven't been around people, it's hard for me to put my thumb on that without interviewing them.
Sure is fun to debate. It goes fast every week. Jim, thanks for this. We'll be watching tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Should be fun.
You bet. The CFL on TSN's Jim Barker joining us from Toronto would advance the division semifinal weekend.